won't none! You don't want none!
What's going on, Tar Heel Nation? It is your favorite North Carolinian, Russ the Tar Heel. And in this huddle, we're going to talk about the North Carolina Tar Heels hosting the Clemson Tigers in the Dean Dome, February 6th at 7 p.m. on ESPN. But you already know how we do this. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, the nuts and bolts of that game, we're going to look at the updated ACC rankings as of February 4th. And as we can see, the mighty Tar Heels of North Carolina have a full 2-game lead on the Virginia Cavaliers. North Carolina's 10-1. Virginia is 8-3. And then Puke is at 7-3. Love it, baby. Just stinking love it. The team that we love to hate is at 7-4. FSU and Faker at 6-4. Miami is at 6-5. Syracuse, Pitt, and Virginia Tech are at 5-6. Our opponent, the Clemson Tigers and the Boston College Eagles, are at 4-6. Georgia Tech is at 3-8, and Louisville and Notre Dame are in a just absolutely heated battle to see who can come in last place. Now, the Clemson Tigers have historically not fared very well in Chapel Hill, as they are currently 1-60 at North Carolina all time. Clemson's lone win came back on January 11th of 2020, where they beat the Heels 79-76 in overtime. Sad day to see that streak end like that, but the Heels were able to avenge the loss on February 11th, 2023 by defeating Clemson 91-71 at the Dome. Now, the North Carolina Tar Heels met the number 16 Clemson Tigers, number 16 at the time, at their place and got a hard-fought 65-55 victory at Little John. R.J. Davis and Armando Bacot both scored 14 points, but Mondo added 16 stinking boards by really taking it to P.J. Hall. Carolina shot 41.7% from the floor and 34.8% from three. The story for the Tigers was forward Ian Shefflin, who absolutely killed us on the offensive glass. He had 16 points and 11 rebounds himself. Chase Hunter scored 17, and P.J. Hall was actually held to 10 points and 5 rebounds. We'll take that all stinking day. Remember, Carolina held them to that game to an abysmal 5.6% shooting from three. So let's go ahead and look at round 2 of this year's bout with the Clemson Tigers. The Clemson Tigers are averaging 79 points per game, and they're giving up 72.2 points per game. They are 2-3 in their last 5 games overall, with wins over Louisville and at Florida State, along with losses to Georgia Tech, Puke, and Virginia. All 3 losses were by 3 points or less. The North Carolina Tar Heels are averaging 83.1 points per game and giving up 69.9 points per game. Carolina is 4-1 in their last 5, with wins at Boston College, Wake Forest, at Florida State, Puke, and then their lone loss was that just inexplicable loss to Georgia Tech down in Atlanta. The Clemson Tigers are led by head coach Brad Brownell, who is in his 15th year as the basketball coach at Clemson. He holds a 255 and 184 record at Clemson, good for a 581 win percentage. The Clemson Tigers' leading scorer is 6'10", 238-pound center P.J. Hall, who was averaging 19.9 points per game, which is good for 33rd in the country, 7 boards and 1.5 assists. He's shooting 49.5% from the floor and 30.2% from three, which is a little bit down from last year. He is a good free throw shooter at 81.9%. Then there's 6'8", 238-pound junior forward, as we already talked about, Ian Shefflin, who was averaging 9.5 points per game, 9.6 rebounds per game, which is good for 25th in the country and 2.3 assists. He's shooting 59.7% from the floor and 57.9% from three. He killed us when we played them at Clemson. Now, Shefflin gets a whole bunch of stinking easy buckets. That's why that shooting percentage is so high. But the dude actually can step out and knock down open threes, okay? So it's not necessarily his forte, but he can do it. And he's obviously, as you can see, pretty good when he steps out there unabated. Then there's 6'10", 210-pound sophomore forward Chauncey Wiggins, who is averaging 7 points per game, 2.9 boards, and 1 assist. He's shooting 44.7% from the floor and 34.9% from three. Then there's 6'2", 189-pound senior guard Joseph Girard III, who is averaging 14.7 points per game, 3.4 boards, and 3.1 assists. He's shooting 42.2% from the floor and 42.3% from three. Really good free throw shooter at 92.9%. Girard did not do anything against us when Carolina went to Clemson last time, but this guy can shoot the ball. So Carolina did a really good job of staying in his chest, not giving him anything open. They're going to have to continue to do that in this basketball game. You cannot let that guy get stinking hot. He's a really good setup shooter. And then there's 6'4", 200-pound senior guard Chase Hunter, who's averaging 12 points per game, 2.5 rebounds, and 2.6 assists. He's shooting 41.3% from the field and only 27.5% from three. Remember, Chase is the guy that has 17 points against Carolina, so they're going to have to do a better job of staying in front of him and not letting him get his big body in to the lane. Clemson can go about 10 deep, so you'll see guards Hemingway, Bradley, and Hunter, along with forwards Godfrey and Clark. So now that we've taken a look at the bad guys, let's take a look at the top of the ACC Tar Heels. North Carolina is led by head coach Hubert Davis, who is in his third year at Carolina. He's amassed a 67-27 record, which is good for a 7-13 win percentage. The Heels' leading scorer is 180-pound senior guard R.J. Davis, who is averaging 21.3 points per game, which is good for 11th in the country, 3.6 boards, 3.4 assists. He's shooting 44.5% from the floor and 41.1% from three. RJ got a little banged up against Duke. Seth going up for a board, comes down, elbow in the side of his head. He's got a pretty little good contusion right there. So hopefully RJ is going to be good to go for the Clemson game. I'm sure he is. Dude is tough. And then there's 6'1", 180-pound freshman guard Elliot Cadeau, who's averaging 7.6 points per game, 1.7 rebounds, and 3.7 assists. He's shooting 42.4% from the floor and only 16% from three. Now, Elliott did have a couple of threes, because they're sagging on him, that looked like they were going to go down. So hopefully he's getting close. They looked good out of his hand. He looked comfortable shooting them. They just didn't go down. But he did knock down some stinking free throws during the Duke game too. So hopefully that shooting touch is getting a little stinking better, man. Then there's 6'5", 195-pound senior guard Cormac Ryan, who is averaging 10.8 points per game, 3.3 rebounds, and 1.2 assists. He's shooting 37.5% from the floor and 30.4% from three. Cormac has been outstanding on the defensive end, and it was good to see him go 2 for 5 from three against the Blue Devils. We will take that all stinking day from Cormac. Anywhere between 35 and 40%, bro. Salute. Then there's 6'7", 235-pound junior forward Harrison Ingram, who's averaging 12.5 points per game, 9 rebounds, 45th in the country, and 2.4 assists. He's shooting 43.2% from the floor and 41.4% from three. The dude was an absolute glass cleaner. Erk it. Against the Duke Blue Devils, bro. Just cleaned it up, man. And he went stinking 5 for 9 from three. Huge game from Harrison. He was just all over the stinking place. And then last but not least, the preseason All-American 6'11", 240-pound senior forward Armando Bacot, who was averaging 13.9 points per game, 9.9 boards, which is good for 16th in the country, and 1.6 assists. He's shooting 54.8% from the floor and 78.2% from the charity stripe. Armando turned up in his last game in Chapel Hill against the Puke Blue Devils, bro. He had 25 and 10, and he stinking took it to Filipowski, just like he took it to P.J. Hall down at Clemson. Hopefully, he can dominate Hall again. Also, keep an eye out for the key contributors off the bench: Seth Trimble, Jalen Washington, Jalen Withers. Obviously, those are the guys that Carolina is really going to bring out there. Occasionally, Wojcik. So Carolina goes about 8, 9, sometimes 10 deep. So now that we've looked at the tail of the tape, let's take a look at Russ's 3 keys to victory. Key number 1, run the Tigers all the way back to Clemson. Carolina has been a different team at the Dean Dome, especially on the offensive end. Clemson limited the Heels' runouts and fast break opportunities in their game earlier this year. Carolina needs to get out and run as often as possible to get this Clemson team sped up. They need to run, baby, run. Try to keep Clemson from getting into their half-court sets, man. If we can run with them, I think that greatly, drastically improves our opportunity of not only winning the basketball game, but winning comfortably, man. Let's get out and run in the Dean Dome. Key number 2, somebody keep Shefflin off the boards. Ian Shefflin was all over the stinking glass in the first meeting between these two teams, which enabled Clemson to have a plethora of second chance opportunities. Carolina needs to box that guy out and keep him off the glass. Clemson is an average shooting team, so if the Heels can force jumpers and limit the Tigers to 1 shot on each possession, they could get up early, they could cruise, but they got to stink and box out, man. You got to keep that guy off the glass. You know, he's not a great athlete in the general sense. We're talking about college basketball player. But what the dude does is he reads that stinking ball off the rim and he hustles. I mean, he's got like a motor like Harrison Ingram, just not as athletic. Key number 3, stand on your business, bro. The Heels are a little bit banged up. Armando's got stinking chipped teeth, apparently. RJ's got a gnarly contusion on the side of his eye. As exciting as the Puke game was, Carolina needs to put that behind them and handle this Clemson team. Completely counterproductive to beat the Devils in Chapel Hill and then slip up against another middle-of-the-pack team. They need to get up early, run, baby, run, keep Shefflin off the glass, and then stinking get up early and cruise, right? Stand on your business. And that'll lead us to Russ's score prediction. The ESPN matchup indicator gives the North Carolina Tar Heels an 82.1% chance of beating the Clemson Tigers in the Dean Dome. P.J. Hall is going to be looking to have that bounce-back game, as he only had 10-5 against Armando Bacot down there in Clemson. He was completely outclassed by Bacot at his own house. Girard also was held in check. But I'm going to be honest with you. I see the exact same thing happening right here in Chapel Hill. North Carolina plays really good defense against a mediocre shooting team, and they score in the 80s themselves for a fairly comfortable victory. I got the Heels beating the Tigers 85-71, and they keep the ball rolling into their short little road trip. So let me know what you think, Tar Heel Nation, down in the comments section. Am I on to something, or am I sitting down here at the edge of the bench with my bifocals reading the latest edition of College Basketball for Dummies? I don't know. Let me know down in the comment section. And if you haven't already, like, share, subscribe to the channel, and consider becoming a member of the Huddle Hooligans, man, especially if you're a college football or college basketball fan. Live reaction and watch party February 6th at 6:50 p.m. So you make sure you come by and hang out with your boy as we watch the Heels defend the Dome. Excited, bro. Carolina's 18-4, 10-1 in the conference, and Clemson is just another speed bump in the way to where we're trying to go, man. So come hang out. Love you, Tar Heel Nation. We'll catch you on the next one, baby.